back to another episode of the Fitness Education Series produced by the Australian Fitness Academy. It's like progressive overload for your brain. I'm your host, Tom Rock, and today we've got Aaron. Say hello, Aaron,
Hello.
because the people listening won't see you wave
Yep.
on Zoom, and we've got Becc as well.
Hey.
Awesome. All right, thanks for jumping on, guys.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Excellent. Today, I thought we'd discuss The Biggest Loser.
Oh.
So I think it's an interesting topic, probably coming to fruition again because of a recent Netflix documentary that has been released. So I obviously watched it because it's obviously fitness related. But it just brought back a lot of questions and interesting stuff, I think, that hasn't probably been touched on for many, many years. A lot of people probably forgot about The Biggest Loser as a TV show and a concept. But I think the whole fitness industry as a whole, that's probably the last time it was really televised and explored in a mass scale. So we won't sort of touch on the Netflix documentary per se, but I think it sort of raises a lot of good discussion points around The Biggest Loser. So for you guys, I think initially, if you can remember back, like your first impressions when The Biggest Loser aired on TV back in, well, obviously not in America, but in Australia. Did you watch it? Did you like it? What do we think?
I'll go first. So I think I really got hooked on The Biggest Loser, and I enjoyed watching it, and it kind of made me want to be a PT as well. That was probably one of the kind of first kind of ideas of personal training, or what personal training looks like, or what I thought personal training looked like, definitely. And I guess that is what sparked the idea for me of I want to go and do this as a career.
Yeah, cool. Aaron, did you watch it back in the day?
I did. I remember it. I remember it pretty clearly. It was. I wouldn't say it inspired me to be a PT, but it probably had the inklings and laid the groundwork for that.
Yep.
From the 10% of it that was a positive sense of helping people, or for what they did. And I know you're going to dive into it a little bit more in a minute too, but it was probably the first time fitness had been showcased on TV in that way. Fitness and reality TV clashing together. So, I mean, the good parts of seeing people train, how they were trained, it's a separate issue. But I did watch it. We watched it with the family. It was like a Sunday night thing that you did because those were the weigh-ins as well.
Yeah, I think it both. Yeah, I was sort of. I think when I think back to, I think it was one of those things. It's like, oh, maybe I could be a PT. Like, I obviously enjoyed fitness and exercise, so it sort of showcased that as a career. Probably around the age that we were potentially thinking about, what am I going to do for a career, and what job would I like? And it's sort of obviously an area of interest. So it sort of potentially opened your eyes to that is a potential career opportunity. So yeah, very interesting place for the show to start, I think, and we might touch on sort of the impact potentially later on. I think we might start with the extreme weight loss methods on the show. Do we think they're realistic or sustainable in the real world, or can that premise of The Biggest Loser be applied in the real world?
No.
No?
No.
Not just a simple no. It's you're not building any habits, really. Like, you don't have the time to. And the fact that you are eliminating people out of the show once they might have started to build any form of habits. So say you're not in the first 2 weeks, and you're 4 6 weeks in, you started to see some weight loss drop, but then you have the demoralizing position of, oh, well, you only dropped 0.6 of a kilo this week, so you're actually eliminated from this show, and you're the one that's let your team down. Yeah, that's probably not a really good way to go. Becc?
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't it now funny, or not funny, but like reflecting on the show, like I feel like I've got such a different opinion of, I guess, the you getting eliminated to from when I was younger watching it to now. Like, now I can understand and see how important it would have been for potentially those participants to continue to see support after that kind of potential, even if it was a small weight loss or whatever it might be, in order to create sustainable habits. They need that support, and they need to be able to be doing something that they are going to be able to continue to do long after. And I think a lot of those strategies that were implemented during The Biggest Loser were quite extreme. So it put the participants, that's I guess what you would call them, into a position where they were not able to sustain that after the show as well, especially if they had a full-time job, a family, things like that. They were put in an environment where they didn't have, I guess, potentially anything else that they had to worry about. They didn't have to cook their own food a lot of the time. Set their alarm probably to go to the gym. I can't remember it now. But yeah, I think when they're kind of removed from that environment, they don't know how to cope potentially on their own, which is why we might have seen with some cases and some of the participants that weight gain after the show as well.
Yeah, some really good points. I like the point about the elimination, because that's another thing that I don't think I even considered back in the day when I watched it. But now I look back and goes, how can you bring someone on with the premise of hopefully getting to improve their health and lifestyle, and then 2 or 3 weeks in go, sorry, unlucky, we're going to send you home, bad luck, you don't actually get to improve. It sort of seems so much like, given what the show is trying to give, it's different to like being eliminated, not winning a money prize at the end for just a general game show. This one, they've gone on, and the applications they sort of showed on the documentary, it's like they've gone through an application process saying, I need this life-changing experience or I'm potentially going to die. And then 2 weeks in, they go, oh, bad luck, you didn't lose enough weight, so you're eliminated. It's just like, yeah, I didn't think about it either.
Yeah. And I guess these people were out there like kind of asking, they want the help, they need the help.
Yep.
And they were kind of, some of them, I guess, left to their own devices in the end, which turned to some weight gain.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you touched on the weight gain too. Another good point that we'll get to now, I think, is like, obviously we decided that it's not sustainable because it's probably the things they were doing in the habits or the way it ran day to day. The show is not doesn't relate to day to day life. If you've got a job or you got kids, where you, like you said, Beck, cooking your own meals, and having all that time to exercise and not do anything else. So yeah, what lessons do you think you would learn from like how, like, to create a lifestyle change from it, do you think? Because as we saw in the documentary, there was actually one of the person who, like, I think he had the record for the most amount of weight lost at all, and he was back on the documentary. Unfortunately, had gained it all back on, if not and more.
Yeah.
Is that Danny? Is that the?
Yeah, I think it was Danny.
It was Danny. I can't remember.
Yeah.
The name.
And he'd gained a significant amount of weight too.
Yeah.
I'll reflect on the Australian one for a second, because when I've had conversations about this in the past and have said, oh, like it doesn't work, people always point to Sam, the firefighter, who kept the weight off. A few things to consider. He was 18, so probably still living at home, probably still had the ability to not need to cook his own meals afterwards and to keep the weight off. But also, this isn't disparaging against anyone who's 18 years old, but a lot of the other people that were in their 30s and 40s had families, had a lot of other responsibilities outside of themselves, that they're not able to focus on those things at all times. And he was a success story, which is fantastic that there is a success
And
story.
I think there probably is a lot, like there would be some success stories out there. And definitely there were some in the documentary that were like happy with their transformations. And it was interesting hearing their opinions on whether they thought the show was good or bad, and it was, some of them was hard to sort of, they didn't know if it was good, but they couldn't say it was bad. So that was also interesting. But I think there's definitely success out there. And I think maybe the 18-year-old, potentially the fact that he hadn't had the ingrained habits of someone who was 30 or 40 years old, could
that's
have
a good point.
potentially been a positive for him as well, in terms of sustaining that ongoing practice. But yeah, I think that's definitely a big one. What impact do you think The Biggest Loser had on the public perception of health and fitness and obesity? That's a tough one for you.
Yeah.
I think it trivialized obesity. I think it turned it into, instead of shining the positive light on what needed to be the focus of obesity is growing, obesity rates are increasing. We need to do something about this. This is a sustainable practice that you could like
Mm.
go along with this at home, but you couldn't because it's reality TV. You're not going to do it over 12 weeks and lose the amount that you need to change your life in those methods at home because people have responsibilities itself. From a health and fitness side of things, it exposed people to personal trainers.
Yep.
It exposed people to personal trainers being commandos or yelling or um, demonstrative behavior to a point, but
Yep.
then they probably did shine a light on that personal trainers have the ability to help people, which is a
Potentially, yeah.
good
Like,
thing.
yeah.
And then that's bias as well. But sorry, Beck, you go.
Oh, no, no. I was just gonna say, I think the amount of people though that came to me for personal training, like even years after the show, had this idea of how a personal trainer is going to act or be.
Mm.
And I think some people were quite intimidated and they always thought I was going to be yelling at them, screaming at them, and I was just a really nice girl.
Yeah.
I'm just a
Absolutely.
nice girl.
Yeah. I think that perception of what a personal trainer should or shouldn't be like, or
Yeah.
a little bit came from that show, and probably still something that's needs to change a little bit in the industry.
Mm.
Is that you're just a genuine person who wants to assist someone to be healthier. You're not there to yell at them and scream at them and just make them almost feel pain. And that the fact that people shouldn't think that's what it looks like or feels like to potentially lose weight or develop um, healthy habits,
Mm.
healthy routine. Um, so in terms of the perception of obesity, I it was interesting watching the documentary back, and they sort of talked about how there was certain individuals getting interviewed that sort of made fun of obese people and that sort of thing. I don't remember it that way watching it when I was sort of 10 years ago when I was sort of early on. I don't remember thinking about it like that. I don't know what everyone else's perception was of it. I thought it was I thought the positive about it that it sort of shows some people that it is possible where you might get to a certain size and they think, oh, well, it's just too hard or there's no hope or I try for a little bit, I don't see much results, I can't do it. So I think potentially the good aspect that should have or should be or did a little bit be focused on is look at the possibilities. And I think
Mm.
that hopefully would like inspire some people to at least attempt to lose some weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think conversely to that, what I meant by trivializing is if you are weighing in and one week you had a good week on the show and lost 6 kilos, and then next week you only lost 1.4, that was seen as a downer. Like that was seen as, oh, you lost weight though. Like
Yeah,
you didn't, or they'd put them through, and we haven't even discussed the challenges yet.
yeah.
But you had a monetary value on a challenge. So then they would eat food that you have been restricting them completely
Mm,
from, guilt them into it, then they might get eliminated from the show because they gained like 100 grams. And
yeah.
it was seen as, oh my goodness, there was no discussion on weight fluctuation. And
Well, I was about to say that, like when you mentioned that if they lose 12 kilos one week
Mhm.
and then a kilo the next week, it's like,
Yeah,
oh, you didn't put any effort in this week. It's like,
yeah,
that doesn't mean they didn't put any effort in this week. If they've
Mm.
lost, they've just sort of lost slightly less this week.
yeah.
It's not a reflection of effort, whereas always
And
sort of came down to, well, you got to work harder. It's like maybe just
yeah,
enjoy
that's
what
just the
you're
body
doing.
normalizing itself. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't, the body isn't used to losing 8 kilos in a week. So it's going to
No,
presume it.
and we know our weight generally fluctuates anyway. You could be 2 or 3 kilos heavier or lighter. Um, Day to day, depending on what you eat and your hydration, all sorts of stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point.
Yes, definitely.
The Temptations, Beck, what was your take on the
Mm.
Temptations? I sort of actually forgot about like until I really watched this watched the documentary. Someone asked me about the Biggest Loser. I would have sort of just thought about the weight loss and the transformations, and I would have completely forgot about the temptations that they had on the show.
Do you know what? You saying that now, I actually can't remember the Temptations part. I mean,
Yeah,
like I did slightly watch the documentary this week,
Yeah.
but I do not remember the Temptations part. I just remember them stepping on the scales, seeing if it was like up or down, and then uh like either eliminated from there. But I don't really remember the Temptations part. I
Yeah,
think Aaron was talking about it before with like
Yeah,
those
they'd have like
temptations.
they'd have a ridiculous thing where it'd be worth. They used to have like the gold bars and stuff that it'd be worth
Oh,
if you
yes, you
went out
had
at
to
this
eat.
point
like
of
an advantage at the weigh-in or something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
something like. But again, what advantage are you trying to provide when you're tempting someone who you haven't weaned them off this food? You've just cut it straight
Mm.
out, and it was more. Those ones always got looked down upon by their coaches
The
because they
trainers.
were never in the temptations, and
Yeah.
they'd come out of the temptation room or they'd go into say it was the red team, and they'd go back in, and then they would say, "Oh, who gave in? Who gave in to temptation?" And like someone's putting up their hand like
Yeah.
that, and they'd get chastised for it.
But then I
And
think, yeah, and that's a good point, getting chastised for it. It's like in real
yeah,
life, if I have a day and we're all going down to get takeaway for lunch, or I decide I'm just going to have a muffin for a snack, it's not the end of the world, and and you shouldn't be berated for enjoying some food. If it's
mm,
part of a healthy, balanced diet, and what you do around that is eating lots of fruits, vegetables, and whole foods, there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with having a burger or having a muffin every now and then, or having a cookie. Have some
yeah, yeah,
slice, and moderation is key. And I think that's probably what the show also didn't
yeah.
relay or teach them a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah.
I remember
I
just
think.
one of them. Sorry, Becky, go.
Oh, no, 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 no. I was going to
No,
say,
I'm
yeah, I think
tangenting.
with even, that's right. I think with even some of my clients, they used to be afraid to like come on the weekend, like, oh, I had like a really big weekend and I ate this. Like they would be almost like afraid that I was going to be like, why did you do that? I think because of the reaction that they had seen shown on TV from the trainers to these contestants as well. So
Yeah,
I think over time, I was able to definitely with my clients anyway ensure them that I'm not going to act like that if you went out and enjoyed like a burger on the weekend, but
yeah.
encourage them to understand that everything in moderation is going to assist them with achieving their goals as well.
Obviously, it was sort of done with a entertainment focus, and I know that they sort of touched that on the documentary how they obviously wanted to help these people, but there's sort of that controversy around, well, we needed to make it entertaining, so that's the temptations and all the stuff they sort of showed. Do you think it would be possible to redesign The Biggest Loser today and make it suitable for, say, TV, and align with good practice, but still work as a television show?
It's niche.
Mm,
It's
Mm,
niche. Like you'd
yeah,
have to run it, you'd have to do it on, you have to say like 20 weeks that they'd have in the house, 20
yeah,
weeks, 6 months, but you'd only have 10 episodes and they're once every 2 months. And it's like the snapshot of what they did during that time. There's no eliminations to it. You still have
yeah.
teams for challenges.
mm,
It shows like them doing that kind of cooking because again, like you said today, attention spans are like that too. And
Yeah,
how do you sell that? How do you sell? Like you'd have to really nearly check into that 2 to 3 weeks into their progress or their programming. Um, I think you could, but would it sell?
I
I
would
don't know.
find it hard to. The only thing I would find it hard to do is like, if we put 20 people in a house, you couldn't base it at all on who's doing better or worse. Generally,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
everyone's losing weight, it's successful. You would say, like, you can't
true.
rate them from you lost 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7 kilos this week. Work harder,
Mm.
do better. So I don't know.
But in
Yeah,
saying that, people watch Big Brother. And
that's
Big
it.
Brother
yeah.
Yeah,
is like a daily camp of people. I can't swear on this podcast.
I would.
People talking
Beep.
absolute rubbish the entire time, day in, day out at night time. And they have silly challenges on there as well. And
Yeah,
you could take out the voted side of things and you don't need the Big Brother, but people still watch that. And it's literally just cameras in a house. So if this was snapshots of their journey. Okay, yep, it's upper body day that we're doing today. It is our cardio day. This is where we progressed from last time. This
mm,
is we're doing a cooking class together. All right, let's get all the
yeah.
whole foods in and meal prep our weeks together. Like that that should sell. And then
I think, yeah, you could do more. It could be more of an educational series where you
Yeah,
set it up, and it's not really about results, but over the 10 or 20 weeks, the client will go through, well, this week we're going to learn to exercise, like do an upper body exercise. Now we're doing lower body exercise. Now we're going to meal prep or work through some healthy eating. And then at the end of the 10 or 20 weeks, they've sort of got a range of information that hopefully helps them build healthy habits.
And that's a success. So
Well,
like a
yeah,
behavior change, that's the success side of things that they do with them when they say, oh, what did you take away from it? It doesn't necessarily have to be, I lost X kilos. It could be, all right, I know how to cook for myself. I know how to train myself. And then they could say, again, where's the money coming from to do it? But you set
yeah,
up with a trainer for like 12 weeks afterwards.
yeah.
So then there's some follow up to it.
Yeah, I think something like that could potentially demonstrate to like the public and individuals things that they can do in their own life to get healthier and fitter. But yeah, in terms of the Biggest Loser, I think the premise of it as it used to be is probably not coming back anytime soon.
No.
And I do think as well, like a lot of people do kind of understand now, seeing The Biggest Loser, that those results aren't sustainable. Like I think a lot of the general public are quite educated around that they know that it probably isn't the best way to go about it. So potentially reinventing a show that encourages change without a reward, say, for example, the reward is potentially life-changing habits that they're able to achieve rather than a money or like a prize, could be something that people would tune into, because it could be something that they're able to take into their own life and learn from it and see results themselves, and hopefully be inspired by how people have been able to change their lives as well.
Yeah, I think somehow having a show that shows a much more realistic weight loss journey or how it can be done would be great to see. But maybe a tougher sell if it's not as entertaining as the old one.
Yeah.
So to finish off, do you think The Biggest Loser had a positive or like a net positive or net negative on the fitness industry?
Ooh.
I'm gonna go positive.
Yeah.
Positive?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go positive. Only because it's just set like 66.6% of this podcast is inspired by The Biggest Loser to become a personal trainer.
Well,
So,
yeah.
and that's a net positive. I think there are the big positives that came out of it, that people did get some results. There are some successes. There are all of those things. But yeah, probably just like I'd say just. Beck?
Yeah, I was going to say I think there are definitely some positives from it. Definitely some things that we've learned from it as well, potentially what to not do. But yeah, I definitely think that there's some positives within the industry of how it's probably grown as well for personal trainers and the need for personal trainers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely a positive. I think probably overall, I think it's a net positive, and I'd like to think that if we somehow surveyed everybody on the planet, that most people would see it as a positive influence, not that, like, I don't remember it as people trying to sort of make fun of overweight people. I don't remember it being like that at all. Some of the documentary comes across like that's what it was and that's how people saw it. I don't remember it being like that, or I never considered that at all. So I hope as a net positive, it came out and showed a lot of people that it is possible. With probably slightly different methods to be a slightly more sustainable, or give them the tools at the end of the show so they don't just finish the 12 weeks on The Biggest Loser, they've lost 60 kilos, but then they're just like, all right, back to your life where you don't actually have the resources to continue what you're doing.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Good discussion, guys. I think it's a very interesting topic, The Biggest Loser. If there's any listeners out there and you haven't watched or you do watch the Netflix documentary, definitely email tom@afa.com.au. Let me know your thoughts on The Biggest Loser. If there's anything else you want to touch on or have to discuss, send it in, because we can definitely do a follow-up podcast on this. Or we could probably talk about this for hours, The Biggest Loser. But yeah, very, very interesting. I think, lots of little questions come out of that documentary. So a super important watch, especially in the fitness industry these days. How do you approach people and how do you encourage them to do it correctly, I guess?
Yep.
Well put.
Awesome. Thanks for
Awesome.
jumping on, Beck. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm sure we'll have you back on for the podcast very soon. Everyone else,
Yep.
have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.